I'm always reminding myself of the basics because it's funny. I remember when I was on King of the Hill having a conversation with Greg Daniels, who later created the American version of The Office. But I said, Greg, there is no writing 102. It's all writing 101. And he's like, yes, that's it. Writing one. It's all right. Because it is. It's all the basics. You're listening to Screenwriters Need to Hear This with Michael Jamin. All right, everyone. Hey, welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about working with a partner and how to find one and how to why you want one or why you don't want one. And because I've been working with a TV writer, a partner. I've had a partner for, we've been together, close to 30 years. I don't want to date myself, but maybe almost that many years. And so we always work together. His name is Sivert Glarum, and we always work together. That's how a partnership is. But it's a tricky thing, finding a partner. So I thought I'd elaborate on that for anyone.
I think it's an interesting topic, especially for someone like myself, where I definitely see the value of a partner, but I also see a lot of my experience with having to rely on other people, from group projects in school down to actually trying to lean in and trust that someone will follow through on their end. My experiences have not been great.
Yeah, it's a marriage, and marriages are not always easy. Not everyone's meant to get married to other people. So it's really, I think I got lucky. In comedy, it's probably more advantageous to have a writing partner in comedy, because when you say something funny, you don't know if it's funny until someone else is laughing. You may think it's funny, but until your partner laughs, then you go, oh, okay, that must be funny. And I'll just talk about how we met, because when I talk in comedy, there's so many ways. I guess when we met, we were teamed up. In comedy, like, some people have partners, and it's common to have a partner. It's common not to have a partner. But when you have a partner, you literally split a salary for the rest of your career. But it does make you. In theory, it gives you the advantage of getting hired more often, because you're kind of getting you're literally getting two for the price of one. Right. And especially when you get high up levels, you're running a show, and now, when you're a showrunner, you have so many responsibilities. It really helps to have someone else take some of them off your hand. And if you don't have a partner, you got to do it all. So but like I said, it is tricky, because you have to get along. And like you're pointing out, you have to really get along with this person. You each have to carry your weight.
I think that'd be interesting to get. I'm sure we'll get into this. I think it'll be interesting to talk about kind of your division of labor as you're going through the process of how you're writing. I've heard of different processes based on different writing partnerships, whether it's the Thomas Lennon, Robert Ben Garrett process of they just assign scenes, so one person takes odd and one person takes evens, and as they send them back, they're continuously rewriting each other.
Yeah.
So by the time they're done with draft one, they have 20 rewrites done. Or is it that one of you sits at the typewriter or not dating myself at all.
Yeah.
Sit at the computer and type it out while the other one dictates, or does it take turns? That's an interesting.
And I've seen partners do it both ways. The way we do, we literally write everything together. So we will sit at the computer, and one will look at the monitor, and the other will be at the keyboard, and we literally type at the same. So one. I tend to be the one who does the typing, mostly because I'm a better typer than Sivert is, and frustrates me to no end when I'm watching him struggle to put a word together. But sometimes he'll do it, and I'll sit and watch. And so it's nice to have someone drive the boat a little bit. But I'll talk about how we met. We were I was signed by an agent, and few years out of college, and it was a very big deal for me. And she blew a lot of smoke up my ass, and she's like, I sign one baby writer a year, and I make a star out of that writer, and this year you're the guy. And congratulations. And I was like, wow, I'm on cloud 9. And she's like, in 3 years, you're going to be running your own show. I was like, oh my God, running. I don't even know if I can write an episode of TV, but running. And then, when the smoke cleared a couple days later, I was curious about what had happened to the previous baby writer before me. And so I got through their assistant, I got the name of this guy, and I called him up. He was actually 2 years before me. And I called him up, and I was like, hey man, what show are you running? Because you obviously must be incredibly successful. And he's like, dude, I work at a record store. And so he hadn't gotten staffed at all. And so we decided to team up. There were two reasons to team up. One, I knew enough then to know like it was hard. I knew enough to know that I didn't know enough, we traded scripts. I was like, man, this guy's a better writer than I was, even though we were both signed independently, and I was hotter than he was in terms of I was the new flavor of the week for this agent, and rather than compete against each other for the same job, we teamed up. And that's how we became partners.
So how did you broach that conversation of what do you think here? Is this something that you want to do together? Like, how did that conversation go?
I think we were both interested in writing with a partner. He had a partner many years earlier who decided to get out and become a socialist. That's how Sivert describes it. And so we were both open to the idea, and we kind of met and we hit it off. We were coming from similar backgrounds. We're both from the East Coast. Sievert's a couple of years older than me, but we're close in age. We both played the trumpet in grade school, that kind of thing.
Right. Match made in heaven.
Yeah, but a lot of partners are just they tend to be, hey, we were friends in college and we both wanted. I know that happens a lot, and so let's go out to Hollywood together and become writing partners. So that often is the case. Sometimes you see a husband and wife as a writing partner.
Right, I've seen that a couple times. Some pretty big names are writing partners in their couples.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so that's a fascinating topic. I was literally just listening to. I was out on runs for our show yesterday in post production, and I had to just drive all over Hollywood and Burbank multiple times. So I started listening to a Stephen Pressfield book. He wrote The War of Art, Turning Pro, a bunch of stuff. He's a screenwriter who did the novel of Legend of Bagger Vance and also wrote the film. He's multiple time best-selling author, been in the industry from the advertising background. He's got this other book that I never read, and it's No One Wants to Read Your Shit. Pardon the language,
interesting.
But that's the title. And his whole point is you have to understand whether you're advertising, writing novels, writing screenplays, no one wants to read your shit. And so you shouldn't be like surprised when no one gets around to it.
Yeah.
And ultimately it has to be that good that they want to read it. But he talks about how he got partnered up with this big name, and ultimately he felt like he wasn't getting a lot of the credit for what he was doing because he was the writer and the other guy was the name. And his agent sat him down once. He said, you need to understand that right now he is the known deal because he's had hits with his other writing partner
right.
And he's had hits with you. He's the common denominator. You're a nobody. Mm-hmm. So you need to understand your role here. Now, obviously your situation is a little bit different because we were both young baby writers who partnered up, but it sounds like there's even a little bit of that because you were the hot thing for your agent.
I was the hot, but he was trading because we traded scripts. I'm like, this guy really is a really good writer. I could tell just from reading his script, like he really understood story structure. And he had sold on his own an episode with his previous partner, an episode of The Wonder Years. So it was like he did have a little more, he had one under the belt, and I had none under the belt. But the truth is, like, and I remember in the beginning, there was a struggle between us in terms of we didn't know how to trust each other, and of course I wanted more of my lines in the script than his lines, and it was that kind of thing. And then as you get older and more mature, it's really that ego goes out the window, and it's more about whoever pitches the line that will get you home sooner, that's the one you'll do. It's like, I don't really, if it comes out of his mouth, great. That's great. Let's use that one. I don't really care. And I think he feels vice versa. It's like, and often, we'll do a rewrite on our script and he'll want to cut a line. And I'm like, no, that's the best line in the script. And it's his line, and he's, so I'm fighting for his stuff and vice versa, So
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the pride dies as you become a pro is really what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think so. It's also like in the beginning, the novelty of seeing your words on TV was like, oh my God, my lines are on TV, millions of people. Right. And then, it's not that it gets old, but you become accustomed to it. And then it's really more about just doing the work and finishing the work as opposed to like your ego,
Okay, so you obviously knew he was engaged because he was obviously working on the stuff. But for people who are considering teaming up, aside from the benefit of you're more likely to get staffed, you have someone to vet your jokes or your story against to kind of tell you whether or not it's good. How can you tell whether or not someone's serious, like someone's a good partner?
Yeah, that's the thing, because we were both signed by the agent, so we were both intent on breaking into Hollywood. So so it wasn't like a fluke, or it wasn't like a lark. Neither one of us, like, it was a lark. And we were both around the same time in Hollywood. We were both like kind of struggling PAs, and we would work on the weekends. We were both very committed. So after work and on the weekends, every day we met and we wrote spec scripts over, wrote and wrote and wrote. And so because he was a couple of years older, he was also a little bit more hungry, a little and more desperate. It was like he had to make this happen now. And so we both had that same work ethic in terms of like, and I was young, I was a little younger, but I was also like, I want it now. I don't have any patience. So it's like, we have to hit this now. And so it was a sense of franticness and urgency. And it wasn't like, there was no plan B for either of us. So
how long after you partnered did you end up selling something?
I think, I'm trying to remember it. Like we wound up selling an episode of Lois and Clark that I helped get because that was I resold it to my bosses. So I was working as their assistant at the time. So I got that because, they were my bosses. And that might have been a couple of years after we were writing. But then it took another couple of years before we were able to get staffed on our first job, which was Just Shoot Me. And so it took a few years. And in between then, we also got into the Warner Brothers writing program, which really did nothing for our career, but, it was something. So it took a few years of struggling. And I remember, like, at that age, years feel like decades, especially when you feel like, I should be doing more with my life. So,
yeah. So the reason why I asked that is because what you're describing is every day after work and on weekends, you're practicing your craft, which you've talked about in other episodes, is a writer writes. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. If you wrote something a year ago, you have written, but you are not actively writing. And so what I'm hearing you say is, even though you had agents, which the big misconception is you need an agent to break it into Hollywood, and that's what does it for you. Mm-hmm. That didn't help.
No.
And then even then, you put in years of effort to make it to your first staff job.
Yeah, and the first spec script that we wrote together was a Friends. I think it was the first one. It may have been the first. It was one of the first. But we just kept on writing specs. We probably wrote maybe 8 or so specs together, maybe more of show and ironically, it was that first. I think it was the first spec script that we wrote together that wound up getting work for us years later. It was a really good spec, but we just didn't quit. It was like, well, write another one. Let's get better. So, and I haven't looked at it in years, but I'm sure I'd look at it and go, ooh, boy, it's not as good as I remember it, because you get better as you get older.
Right. So there has to be a commitment to craft and professionalism is ultimately a good vetting benchmark for this.
Yeah.
Are these people willing to work as hard as I am?
Yeah, and it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not like, hey, let's try this on a lark and let's try. Hopefully, we'll sell this. It was like, no, we both want to become writers, professional writers. We will not going to stop until we get there. We're going to work our asses until we do.
Yeah, got it. Okay, all right. So similar goals, hard work ethic, all those things.
Yeah.
Are there any red flags that you can think of hey, this is probably not a partnership that's going to work out?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that the ego, part of it, I also think part of what made us a good team, especially in the beginning, was in a comedy writing room, usually you get classified as a joke guy or girl, joke guy or a story guy. And if I was definitely a joke guy, and Sivert was probably a story guy. And so we had complementary skill sets. And now, but years later, I've definitely moved towards the story person as well. It's like, because the jokes are fun, and it's like a lot of sizzle, and you get a lot of credit, and people love the joke guy. But the story person is far more valuable, and it's a skill that's way more important to have than just being funny or jokes. Those are disposable, really.
That's a note that I've seen from industry professionals that I know personally is if you don't understand story structure, you don't know how to lay out a story, it's not helpful.
Yeah, and no one does when they start out. Nope, everyone thinks they do, and they don't. I mean, there are very few people who are born with that innate skill, and they rise up to the top very fast. The rest of us have to learn it, and it takes a while to learn that.
Got it. And to your point, like, even though I've seen this, like, you taught me this stuff, you have it in your course, I've probably seen you teach story structure, the way you break a story in any room. I still catch myself on a first draft thinking, why did I just bulldoze that plot point right there? Like, why did I step over that story moment?
And I make the same mistakes all the time too. Like, I'll sometimes read my work and go, what, you need to distance some time to look at your work. You go, wait a minute, this is what's going on here? Because you get lost in the weeds, and you have to always go back to the basics. I'm always reminding myself of the basics because it's funny. I remember when I was on King of the Hill having a conversation with Greg Daniels, who later created the American version of The Office, and he was my boss on King of the Hill. And I impressed him with something that I said, which was odd that I would impress him. But I said, Greg, there is no writing 102. It's all writing 101. And he's like, yes, that's it. Writing one. It's all right. Because it is. It's all the basics. But I think people out there who will try to sell you writing 102 because they can make a buck, but it's all 101. So,
right.
But you have to master that part,
Yeah. 102 does not help you because 101 has not been mastered.
Yeah, it's like advanced screenwriting. No advanced screenwriting. It's all basics, Get back. All master the basics. Hi guys, Michael Jamin here. I wanted to take a break from talking and talk just a little bit more. I think a lot of you guys are getting bad advice on the internet. I know this because I'm getting tagged. One guy tagged me with this. He said, I heard from a script reader in the industry. And I was like, wait, what? Hold on. Stop. My head blew up. I blacked out. And when I finally came to, I was like, listen, dude, there are no script readers in the industry. By definition, these are people on the outside of the industry. They work part-time. They give their right arm to be in the industry. And instead, they're giving you advice on what to do and you're paying for this? I mean, that just made me nuts, man. These people are unqualified to give my dog advice. And by the way, her script is coming along quite nicely. And I'm not done. Another thing, when I work with TV writers who are new on writing staffs, a lot of these guys flame out after 13 episodes. So they get this big break, they finally get in, and then they flame out because they don't know what is expected of them on the job. And that's sad because, it's not going to happen again. So to fight all this, to flush all this bad stuff out of your head, I post daily tips on social media. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook at Michael Jamin Writer. If you don't have time, 2 minutes a day to devote towards improving your craft, guys, it's not going to happen. Let's just be honest. So go find me. Make it happen. All right, now back to my previous rant.
So prior to COVID, I was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here in the Valley with a guy named Romulo Bahal, and he's like a 10-time world champion. He's a legend. Mm-hmm. Like UFC fighters train at his gym, and he's just considered a master. And someone asked him the question, what's better? Is it strength or cardio? And he said cardio because strength will fail you every time. Like strength will fade, but your cardio can endure. And it's almost like what I'm hearing you say is understanding basics of story structure and storytelling. Those fundamentals are the cardio to everything else. It's the engine that keeps you running.
Yeah, and so few people really want to study that because that's not fun,
Yeah, it's not sexy.
Not
sexy. And it definitely feels, at times it feels contrived or feels formulaic. And what I don't think people understand and that I'm slowly learning is that is ingrained in us as a species. It's whether you're talking Joseph Campbell or you're talking, other psychological profiles and this stuff like Jungian archetypes, that storytelling comes from thousands and thousands of years of storytelling. And that's why Homer told his stories in the similar structure, and that's why Shakespeare did, and that's why we do.
Yeah, and it's just because it feels right. It just feels right in your bones. But that's not to say it's cliche. Like you can always make cliche choices that you see a mile away. I mean, but if you follow the structure, there's plenty of creativity within the points, so it doesn't feel cliche. There's still a lot of choices that you can make and mistakes that you can make along the way. But if you have the structure, it really helps. It's like a house, The house is, you can decorate it any way you want, but the house needs to have these things to stay up and not fall down.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, strong foundation, right? You have to have it or house washes away.
Yeah.
So going back to the comment you made earlier where you're talking about this division of labor. So we've talked about that when you first started out, and we talked about it in the writer's room. As a showrunner, as someone, who has a show that you're managing, what's the division of labor for you and your partner when you become an executive producer?
So that kind of started, our first show that we ran together was called Glenn Martin DDS, and that was a little gem that no one saw. It was Kevin, It was animated. Oh, look at that. I give a fellow toy. So
yeah, I've got your DVD right here.
You can go find that. I think it plays on YouTube where I make no money. So you can watch on YouTube for free. And that was with Kevin Nealon. He did the voice, and Catherine O'Hara, who's amazing, of course, and he's hilarious, and Judy Greer. They were what a cast we had. And so on once a week we'd have to record the actors, and Sivert would stay in the writer's room running the rewrite or breaking stories for the next episode while I was on the soundstage directing the actors. I'm pretty good at that. I'm a decent. I can hear the voices, and I'm pretty good at directing and expressing myself and trying to pulling out the best performances from actors. And Sivert is great at breaking stories, so it worked out really well. That kind of division of labor. But if we were only one of us, then that one, something would have suffered. Someone would have not have either directed the actors, the right person. You'd have to delegate to a number two that you trust. And the fact that Sivert and I have been working for all these years, like, we know, like, we have the same taste because I can hear his voice, he can hear my voice. We know it's rare that we disagree on a story point or or a take, So it's a lot of trust and we have the same kind of brain. Even often I don't remember what we were doing. Oh, we were meeting on another show, and we had the same. We both had his favorite episode. We were talking about it later. Like, oh yeah, that's the episode I like best. And he was like, yeah, I like that one the best too, out of like the 6 that we saw. And we liked it for the same reasons.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Do you feel like that's innate, or is that your taste has grown together over time, like being partners?
It's grown. We have the similar sensibility over time. Yeah.
Got it. So on the subject of working with partners, you talked about people from college. You've talked about, your agent and partnering with people, your agent's repping so you're not competing against each other. Are there any other ways you can think of to come up with and find a good partner if that's what you're looking for? Like sort of like a writer's dating app or something?
Yeah, I have no idea. I imagine I would have no idea. I know people, like, in the course that I teach or that I offer, that people they reach out, they trade scripts. That seems like we have a private Facebook group. I don't know if anybody's teamed up from that, but that seems like a decent way to team up with someone because you're both serious about the craft and you both have learned the language that I use in describing stories. So it's kind of like you already have the same foundation a little bit.
Yeah, and to your point, I think that's a very powerful indicator to me of someone's seriousness. And years ago, the first book I ever read on screenwriting was The Complete Idiot's Guide to Screenwriting by Skip Press.
Right.
And he had a couple resources in there. One of those resources is wordplayer.com, and that's run by Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, who are like Aladdin, Shrek, Pirates of the Caribbean,
Right.
Small Soldiers, basically every film, Road to El Dorado, basically every film I grew up with in the 90s and in the early 2000s. And they had a bunch of these articles back from AOL in the forums.
Oh,
right?
wow.
And one of them was talking about professionalism, and they said, you cannot call yourself a professional until you're willing to invest in your craft.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean scouring the internet looking for free scripts. It means going down to a script shop and buying them, or going on Amazon and buying a script. It's finding that.
That's something you do really well, by the way. Like, you always invest in yourself. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I took that note very seriously, and so I have purchased many online screenwriting courses.
Mm-hmm.
I went to film school. I did all those things, and that's one thing that I appreciate about your course is there's almost like a paywall that kind of keeps the riffraff out. And it's not saying that if you don't have the funds that you're riffraff. What I'm saying is there's a level of seriousness that comes with and making an investment in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of the conversations I've had, I've given notes on scripts to multiple people in that group. It's super helpful.
Yeah.
They reach out to me proactively and ask what they can do for me to read my stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Isn't that nice?
yeah, absolutely. And the cool thing is we're also coming at it from the stories, from understanding how real writers break story in the TV room.
Yeah.
The TV writers room, right? Like they're analyzing, saying, oh, you missed this point, and I don't understand how this pays off. And we're speaking in almost like
same language,
insider language. Yep.
Yeah. So that's writing with a partner, and it's probably less important for drama, but for comedy, it could be. I think it's really helpful, and it's something to consider, something to explore, perhaps.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks so much, Michael. Again, I appreciate the info and the insights, and thanks to everybody for listening.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We'll see you on the next one.
This has been an episode of Screenwriters Need to Hear This with Michael Jamin and Phil Hudson. If you'd like to support this podcast, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing this podcast with someone who needs to hear today's subject. If you're looking to support yourself, I'd encourage you to consider investing in Michael's screenwriting course at michaeljamin.com/course. I've known Michael for over a decade, and in the past 7 years, I've begged him to put something together. During the global COVID-19 pandemic, Michael had time, and I have to say, I wish I'd had this course 10 years ago. As someone who's personally invested in most online courses, earned a bachelor's degree, and actively studied screenwriting for over a decade, this course has been more valuable to me than most of the effort I've put in because it focuses on something no one else teaches: story. In his course, Michael pulls back the curtain and shows you exactly what the pros do in a writer's room, and that knowledge has made all the difference for me, and I know it will for you too. You can find more information at michaeljamin.com/course. For free daily screenwriting tips, follow Michael on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at michaeljaminwriter. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Phil A. Hudson. This episode was produced by Phil Hudson and edited by Dallas Crane. Until next time, keep writing.